Okay, so today's webinar is something kind of different and something I've been thinking about doing for a while. As I'm working on my model app driven design course, I was trying to figure out how to add some value. And one of the things I wanted to do was to make it easier to create themes. And so I started playing around with it. There's a bunch of things we'll get into about the challenges and things. But long story short, I think I actually have a solution that'll be part of the course that you can actually use in your environment if you want to. And so I thought I would kind of walk through what I did to come up with the solution and then show it to you and things like that. So that's what this is today. So thanks for coming. Again, my name is Mitch Milam. You can reach me at any of these. This will be recorded and put up on my YouTube channel, as always. If you subscribe, there's a little bell beside the subscribe button. And when you click on that, it will actually send you a notification anytime I upload stuff. So this will be uploaded later this afternoon after it gets through rendering and uploaded and things like that. So again, this is coming out of my app design course. It's $97 until Monday. I did say the first originally, but that's Sunday, and I'm not going to do that. So Monday, it opens on Monday and goes up to $197. So again, what I'm showing you today is going to be a part of the course, and it kind of covers what we're going to discuss today is actually getting into some things we're actually going to cover in the course. Plus, there's actually an end product at the end of this. So let's get right into that. So here were the design goals that I had for this solution. And again, this is working with themes. If you guys don't change your theme, then it's probably not necessary, but a lot of people do. So the built-in theme designer is really restrictive. You have to know what you're doing, and it's not very customizable, and I wanted to fix that. So the first thing that I wanted was to be able to use it inside the UCI interface. Right now, you have to go to your settings, customization themes, and you've got just the standard old legacy application. Or if you're upgraded, application-ish. Also wanted to make use of a new PCF component from Rick that allows us to actually pick the color instead of just knowing it and typing it in. And then finally, this is the last thing I have to do, and we'll get that toward the end, is I wanted to push this data back into the theme entity, so that the work we did, we didn't have to go and re-enter it. So that's the actual end goal, is to be able to visually design our interface to a point and then push it back into the theme. Okay. So there's going to be several iterations to this. So, Rome wasn't built in a day. If you've seen any of my other webinars, I use the picture of the elephant. You can't eat elephant one bite at a time, or you can't eat an elephant in one bite. You have to, cut it up. So I have basic functionality, enhanced functionality, and then at some point I would like this to actually replace the theme. Not really replace the functionality, just replace how you do it. So that's the actual end goal, is to replace how you build themes. So iteration 1, I want to be able to select the colors and then save those colors into an actual theme record. So that's the built-in theme record. Iteration 2, I would like to clone a theme record into a custom theme generation record, and then allow us to pick the logo from a web resource. That's also built into the system. Iteration 3 is to modify the built-in theme and then save and publish the theme back into the system. So that's the whole thing. So basically, in other words, what would happen at the end of this, assuming everything works the way that I think it should work, again, I'm not totally finished with it, and there are some challenges we'll get into in just a second. So the idea is we'll use this solution to edit and publish our themes instead of the built-in ones. So we're going to be using the built-in themes, but our interface is going to be a custom interface. So let's talk about the technical hurdles we ran into. So the built-in themes are extremely special. And the reason they are extremely special is because of just the way they had to do the interface, to be quite honest. So you can't customize it. It only works on the legacy web interface. It's manually intensive. And then the definition is protected. And when I say the definition is protected, you can't even see it within the user interface. The only time you're going to be able to see what's actually inside of the theme entity is using an XRM Toolbox tool, or look at the documentation or something like that. So you can't even open it on anything within the Dynamics interface as far as customizations go. So you can't actually see what's in there. So a couple of things that I use within the XRM Toolbox. And again, if you don't know what the XRM Toolbox is, go out to xrmtoolbox.com. It's a tool written by my friend Tangi that is a collection of tools he wrote along with the community that adds all kinds of value, does all kinds of things. And the two that I use for this are the metadata browser and then the Fix XML builder. So the metadata browser is something that will pull out the metadata for an entity and allow you to look at it and export it to Excel and things like that. Fix XML builder is a tool that allows you to visually create a Fix XML query, execute it to test it or to pull data. I use that all the time, as well as generate the XML that you can use inside your JavaScript or your .NET or whatever it might be. So these are the two tools that I was using to do that. So I used this color picker from Rick Wilson, and it's really cool. Pops up a little color chart, and then you can just use it as you would kind of normally if you've ever used any kind of paint program like MS Paint or Paint.net or anything like that. Okay, so that's what it is. I also was using this one, and I'll show you what happened. It stopped working. Right in the middle of me working on this project, Microsoft decided to switch me over to UCI, and it caused all kinds of fascinating issues. And this button stopped working. I don't know why. So it's something I've got to talk to him about. So let's go to the entity creation part. And I subtitled this "A Lesson in Reverse Engineering." So I started out in the IT business a very, very long time ago. In fact, we didn't even have ones back then. We only had zeros. That's how long ago it was. So I spent a great deal of my career reverse engineering other people's stuff so I could figure out how it works so I can make it work better or find additional functionality and things like that. So that's what we're going to be doing here. Since again, we don't have access to the actual raw data itself or the data schema. So here is the XRM Toolbox metadata browser plugin. So I opened it up. I opened up the theme entity, and then I wanted to know how were these things constructed. So there's about 15 colors that we use. Accent color is one of them. And what I wanted to know was, one, what type was it? And two, how big was it? And as you can see in the highlight there, it was a string, 14 characters long. Okay. And what that is the hexadecimal value of the color. So it'll be a pound sign and then a 6-digit number is what it will be. So they did it 14 characters. So I wanted to know that too. Then what I wanted to know is what were the names of these things? Now there's a couple ways to do this. I chose capturing the raw HTML using the Google Chrome developer tools. You could use anything. You can actually even go back, believe it or not, and do it here. The reason I'm doing it this way is because I started out over here and the names of the fields do not match the descriptions of the fields over here. So then again, there's a couple ways to do it, but this is the way I chose. So what I did is I highlighted this area, and then over on the right-hand side, I captured the HTML, and then I pasted it into Visual Studio, and it looks like this. Okay, so it's just a table with a bunch of things. So there's 3 pieces of information that I wanted out of this. The first is I wanted to know the name of the attribute or field. So nav bar background color. That's the actual field name for this color. Then I have a description. Sorry, not a description. Basically the display label, which is navigation bar fill color, and then finally I have a description of it, which is the big long. So navigation fill color. Choose the primary navigation bar background color, and then this is what it looks like when I create the entity, or sorry, the field. Okay. Who, by show of hands, who knows what the description is used for? This is a trick question. It's not on any certification test, but it should be. Does anybody know what this field is for? Giovanni raised his hand. Just Giovanni? Wow. Okay. Well, oh, two people. Very good. Okay. Very little known fact, has been in Dynamics probably since it was first created. Okay. So what this does is this is the tooltip for the field. So when you put your mouse over a field, this text will pop up as a tooltip. Okay, that's how you can actually do this. So something to remember. A lot of people don't even know about that. Okay, so let's look at the user interface design. So here's the built-in theme builder. You got a name, you got a logo, you got a logo tooltip. Again, when you hover over the logo, it will display that as a pop-up. And then you've got 15 colors. Okay. If you never use this, what you have to do is you have to enter in manually the colors. So you type in the pound and then the 6-digit, whatever it is, or 5 digits, 6 digits of whatever hexadecimal. So that's what you end up with. Okay. You cannot click on the color. It does not pop up anything. You have to go to another, either a website or some other tool or Paint or whatever it might be that lets you create a color. You extract out the hexadecimal color value, you paste it in there and you're done. Okay. Not very productive. So here is the one I made. So I called it theme generator. Custom theme is what actually the Indian's name is. And what this is exactly the same interface. So if you look at that, pretty much what you see is this. Very, very boring because it uses kind of the old layout of the web interface. Oops. And not very, shall we say, UCI-ish. So we're going to fix that. So my first iteration, let's start getting some chats up here. Chat. That is weird. My chat's not showing up. Oh, there you are. Okay. So this is the first iteration. Again, very web oriented. Let's change that. Okay. So I tried to mimic the way it was laid out. So we got the theme name, navigation bar elements, UI elements. Okay. Really wasn't happy with this. And this is kind of what we're talking about in the design course, is how to kind of walk through a change like this. Okay. So this is my first revision after I initially created it. Okay. So here's UCI-ish. We have tabs, try to get everything on one page. Again, still not really loving it. So kind of move things around a little bit. As you know, with this, if you notice, I have, where's my highlighter? Hang on a second. If I was that, I want to draw. So this is my sections, which also mirror this. And this is bad because this duplicates a screen element and we don't need that, right? Okay, so revision 1 is okay. Here's revision 2. I removed those. Okay, because again, they're unnecessary. You know, yeah, still not doing it for me. You know, still looks UCI-ish, but I'm still not loving the flow. And the other thing is, okay, how many people know that you can change the label width by changing a setting in the section? Show of hands, how many people know that? 2, 3. Okay, 4, perfect. Okay, so here's the deal. In the section, there's actually a setting that allows you to control the width of the label. It's 115 pixels wide by default. You can make it up to 240, I think is the width. And that allows you to put more space for the label versus the field in that section. And again, it's section by section, okay? Now, that being said, there is something wrong with this in the UCI. It appears to ignore that. I don't know if this is a bug or a feature. So it's something is wrong, okay? I set this to 200. It changed nothing whatsoever. And I know this sounds silly, but this is just me because I'm really OCD about some of these things, okay? I do not like the wrapping. I have got 2 inches of horizontal space over on the right-hand side. Why are you wrapping my stuff? Okay, drives me crazy. So here's my next iteration. Also a setting within the section is the ability to change the placement of the label to where you put the label on top. There's actually several settings. Do I want my label on the left or on the top? Do I want my label left justified, center justified, or right justified? All of these are settings that you are in control of. So as we cover in the course, one of the things you've got to remember about that, while you can change these things, you need to be very careful about it, because if you start changing the label placement anywhere, you really need to be changing the label placement everywhere, because you're producing an interface that is confusing to the user because their eyes get used to a certain look and feel. When you change that look and feel, it causes confusion. Confusion causes phone calls, and as we all know, phone calls are bad. So use this very judiciously. There's only a few times I've ever used that, and this is one. Okay. And I'm after a very specific thing, and this is a very specific entity. This is not a general entity like account, contact, or lead, or opportunity. Okay. And again, very, very specific. So keep that in mind. So now we have a label on the top of the color, and this is what we end up with. So what I did is I reoriented my tabs, and I wanted to keep all the colors together. So the summary tab has the logo information and the name of the theme, and then the colors tab has all the UI elements. And basically, the navigation bar has 5 colors, and the UI elements has 10 colors, which balances out perfectly. Except for the fact I've got this ginormous white space in the middle of my form, which drives me again crazy, because that's just what I do. Okay, I drink too much bourbon. I don't know. So now I've got a problem here. So I played with this for about 30 minutes trying to get something that made me feel good and what I thought looked good. And again, everything that I go through on this is absolutely personal opinion. So you are going to have a different view of this than me. So that's perfectly normal. So I started playing around with it, and again, I tried different shapes. I tried different sections. It wasn't giving me the look I wanted. I tried doing a section without a header. That didn't work right. I tried sections with lines, and they didn't work. I didn't like that. And so I'm kind of left with this gap, and I'm like, God, this sucks. And then I'm like, I got one other option that I don't use that often, but I can, and that is the fact that on the tab, you can control how many columns are on the tab, 1, 2, or 3. And it just so happens that you can actually, on the 2 tab version, you can control the width of the column. And what I went with on this one was a 1/3, 2/3, or a 33%, 66%. And then that gave me what is more or less a balanced, even form. Okay, so this is what I'm calling my final version. Now, I farted around with this, to be quite honest, for another half an hour, because again, I'm a perfectionist, and that's kind of what I do. So this is a 2-column tab that contains 2 sections. One of those sections is one column. One of those sections is 2 columns. So between the columns of the tab and the columns of the section, I was able to arrive at this layout. I think it looks pretty good. Okay. If you don't like it, don't tell me, because it'll hurt my feelings. Okay. So now we got it looking all pretty, but all it does is just save the data. And the way this control works is, this is a text field. Again, the text fields that I created from reverse engineering the field names. And so what saves to the database is this hexadecimal number, which is exactly what I want, because that's what we use in the real theme. So we have the visual display of the color, and then the hexadecimal display right beside it. As you can see, the white ones over here, I hadn't got to the point where I filled those out. Okay, so let's talk about what we have to do behind the scenes to get everything linked together. So the idea, again, the end game is to have my theme generator bidirectionally linked to my built-in themes. Now, bidirectional will cause you some issues, because you need one to kind of have a source of truth sometimes, most of the time, to be quite honest. And then you have to develop the rules that you need to make sure that everything stays in sync. Now, luckily, we're talking with about a handful of records, not, I mean, in all honesty, probably one. So it's not a ginormous deal. Okay, but this is how it works. So anytime that you're building a solution, you always have to consider things like this. Do I build it for the current iteration or for future iterations? What skill set is going to be required for me to produce this solution? In other words, if I am designing the solution and I'm not the builder of the solution, does the person or people building the solution have the skill sets? What is the ROI? If I develop a plugin, is that going to be worth the 2 or 3 hours it's going to take me to do it versus an hour of JavaScript or something else? Okay. And then finally, I'm giving this to people to deploy. How are they going to deploy it? What are going to be the considerations for deploying this solution into their environment? Because again, I'm just giving it to them as part of the course. It's just going to be a standard solution file that you import into your organization, and there you go. So the background processes, and again, this is the full third iteration, everything is connected version of this. We are creating and updating built-in themes. If a built-in theme is updated in the built-in theme, I want it updated in the theme generator record as well. One of the caveats that causes these issues, the technical things I talked about earlier, is the theme is not available as a lookup. So that means I don't have the ability to put a lookup on the theme generator form. The reason that the built-in theme is a special form is because they did that. So they have a lookup for sorry, there's a couple of different things here. First is theme, second is web resource, which we'll get into in just a minute. Okay, so they did special stuff to get these things to show up, but we don't have that ability. That means that we have to store data that is not in true form. In other words, there's a GUID value that comes back that's pointing to a theme or pointing to a web resource. All I'm doing is storing the text because that's all I have. Okay, what this means is I have to programmatically match these things up behind the scenes to get them in sync. If it was a lookup, we would have been done before I even finished the slide. Okay, but we don't. So now we got a problem. So I have 4 options for this. I can use JavaScript for some of these things. I can use a plugin. I think I might can use the Power Automate. I don't know. Same with workflow. Can I do that? I don't know. In all honesty, the way it's looking right now is this is going to be a combination of JavaScript for some front end stuff that I'll show you in a second, and then probably a plugin on the back end just to keep it in sync. And again, when I say plugin, we're talking maybe 20 lines of code. It's not complicated at all. Won't be. Okay, so let's go look at what I did. Sorry. Okay, so here is my theme. And a couple things. We got the theme name. Everybody has a name, of course. And then there is an image that is a pointer to a web resource. Web resources cannot be used in lookups for some unknown reason. Don't know why, but they don't have that. So what I did is I created this Power PCF button over here. And when I click that, it pops this thing up on the right-hand side, as you can see. Well, that stopped working. So then I just went to this, which is ugly, and hopefully somebody can fix it soon. But the way this works is, while I don't have the ability to put a lookup, I do have the ability to add some JavaScript that lets me look this stuff up. Okay, so I can look that up. My view that I have selected is to show me only images. So I go and I find an image that I like that I've put in there, like my company image, and I pick that, add it, and it sticks it over here. It also adds the GUID value for this because this is what's physically stored in the themes table. Okay, so what has to happen is in the update or create of a theme record, I have to convert this from a piece of text into a lookup reference. This is the technical name to the web resource, and then I have a box for the tooltip, and that's the main part of this. Okay. Again, I wish this would work because it did and stopped working, but it will replace that. So this is what we have for right now, and that will be fixed later or sometime in the future. So then when I look at my colors, They come up, and like if I want to pick a color over here, the default customity theme, I pick on that. There is a bug in this version right here where I have to, let me back up for a second. I have to click in the color field. Rick said that he's going to update the control to fix it, because when I do this, it should update the color field. It does not. You have to click there. Again, this is a corrected bug. And as you can see, the color field is changing, as well as the little box with the thing. So I am a giant fan of fuchsia. So we're using fuchsia for everything. I recommend that for everybody. So go change your main color to fuchsia. Do it on a Friday, and then Monday when it comes in, everybody comes in, they'll have it, and it'll be just a beautiful day. So basically, like I said, this stuff is saved, and then the idea would be I've got another field here. It's going to have to be a text field, unfortunately, that points to a theme. So there's a couple ways to do this that I've been thinking about. So one of the things I would like, and probably what I'll end up doing, is putting a button up here that says clone. And then what it would do is it would drop a list down or pop a box up with the current themes, and it would clone the theme. So I would have another box down here with parent theme, and that's what keeps me in sync. So once I know that and this is saved, then my I'm assuming plugin will see it has a parent theme, and it will go and update it. If it doesn't have a parent theme, it will create a new theme of the same name, same logo, tooltip, colors, and then it will automatically fill in the parent theme to this record when that is done. And then that way it will keep in sync at that point forward. So if and the whole idea behind that, and so there'd be a second plugin on the actual theme. And again, don't know if I can do that. I think I can, but we'll have to find out. If you for some reason go and modify the theme, the built-in theme, it will push the data back over here. Okay, again, bidirectional sync is always a problem, because it's a lot of things that can go wrong. Okay, but again, we're not talking about millions and thousands of records. We're talking about, generally probably one or two. So not a huge thing here. Okay, but again, the whole idea here is I wanted something to to give me the ability to do this, and then save it, and then push it back out, and then there we go. So what questions do you guys have? Because that's pretty much it. Nothing? Okay. Well, since we don't have any questions here. Oh, there's one over here. Okay. That is about it. So like I said, just something simple that, like, what happened was I was kind of redoing some of the course outline after the webinar last week, and I got to thinking about this, and a friend of mine has another MVP has a site that he had created that has the same thing built in, but it's not updated to the new field names and the new stuff. So I'm like, well, maybe I can update that. And I kept, well, that's an ASP.NET site, and it's on Azure, and like I just want to get into that. I'm like, wait a minute, I think I can do this. And I sat here for 2 or 3 hours and was playing with it enough. Like, hey, the PCF works. I can't do, I basically identified what couldn't work, what would work, and then what I thought would work, and then figured out that I think I can do it. So it's just one of those. A lot of times you don't know what you're going to get into until you get into it, because you have to do a lot of research. Like I said, this entity, the theme entity, doesn't show up anywhere, so you have to dig into the documentation to see where it is in the thing. Basically, there are properties that if you work with this long enough, you'll learn to understand. One of them is, can I create one of these? can I update one of these? Those are two flags, can update, can create. And if those are set to false, you can't do that. You can't programmatically create something. If they're set to true, then yes, you can. And I had to have those set to true, which they are. So, so theoretically, when I get this all finished, this will be part of the course, and it'll be ready to go. But if I run into a bug, like I did with this thing here, and now, hey, I'm using a switch for that, which is kind of silly, but you know what, it works. And what I'm doing here, this is kind of fascinating. This is actually a piece of JavaScript. They have a function built into the utility that says literally lookup objects, and you tell it what you want to see, and it will actually pop the lookup box up. So I couldn't create a real one, but I could programmatically create one, which is just as good. And the end result is it returns to me the name and the ID, and I split those out into two different fields here, and we're done. So again, anything with dynamics, there's almost always a workaround to a problem. That's why I have literally built a career working with this product just on that stuff right there. Okay. Vivian asks, can you see a preview of the theme? That I have been thinking about how to do that, Vivian. That is something I want, and that's something Guido does. And his thing is he actually has like a sample area where he will like mock it up. I've been thinking about that. I think I can do that, but it would require a little bit of extra work. It's not. It's definitely not version 1 for sure. That'd be version 2 or 3. But yeah, I think that's absolutely possible. And what that would be is for each of the areas of the screen that you have different things, you would create a mock-up and then just basically apply whatever color selection to that mock-up. So like it may be a, I don't want to ruin this interface, so I would probably have another tab for preview. And what that would be maybe like a web resource of some type with a simulated environment here. And then whenever you change one of these colors, if you flipped over to the preview, it would have it changed. That's what I think it would work as. Not really positive again, but I think that will help. Giovanni, where do you find these settings? So which settings, Giovanni? You mean like the can update, can whatever, those? If that's what you're talking about, if I jump over to my XRM Toolbox, which is way over here. Oh, somebody did. Okay. Oh, hold on a minute here. Metadata browser. If you are curious about that, you open the metadata browser, you open whatever, like this is go to theme. This is theme here. You go down and find, I think it's available for update or available for create. These are not. Somewhere in there. Somewhere in here, there is a thing that basically just says if it's available for that. It's customizable. So as you see, this is not customizable, which means we can't see it. And it doesn't even show up, like I said, on the other thing. Well, it's in here somewhere. Probably scrolling right past it. Access privileges. Yeah, maybe that's it. Let's see. So yeah, so those things are in there. So anyway, so yeah, so but yeah, that's just another tool that we have to get the stuff out. So anyway, so that's about it. Is anybody else have a question? If not, we will close it up for the day and let you get back to the weekend. You have my permission to take the rest of the day off.